Test. 1, 2. That was part of the glitch. We're going to call to order the city council meeting for Monday, July 17th, 2023. Just before we do number 2, we're looking for a local elementary or preschool student which can be nominated to lead the Pledge of Allegiance at the second council meeting of the month by contacting the city manager's office at 793-5532 or emailing Lisa Keen, which is LKUEHN at TWO-rivers.org. We would love to have you do the Pledge of Allegiance for us right here in council chambers. With that being said, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And roll call, Amanda.
Tracy Coach.
Here.
Here.
Darla Leclerc.
Here. Tim Petrie.
Here.
Bonnie Shalhoub. Here.
Scott Steckmeister.
Here.
Aaron Husky.
Here.
Jonathan Petrie.
All right, and then on to number 4, consideration of any council member requesting to participate in this meeting via a remote location. Tonight we have Darla Leclerc, who is joining us via phone. Looking for a motion to have Darla join us in on this meeting. Thank you, Bill. Seconded by Scott. Council discussion. See none, this is a roll call vote. Amanda.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Tim Petrie.
Aye.
Bonnie Shalhoub.
Aye.
Scott Steckmeister.
Aye.
Aaron Husky.
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
She is a beautiful.
All right, on to number 5, which is the public hearing. We have 3 of those. So we're going to get into the first one under A. It is a proposed zoning code text amendment in the R1, R2, and R3 residential districts related to agricultural land uses and the keeping of birds of prey as a conditional use. The recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt the ordinance. Before we open up the public hearing on A, we are going to get some background from Greg.
Actually, I'll ask Elizabeth Runge, our city planner, to come forward. I would mention that the Plan Commission is now at 2 of its regular meetings, discussed this matter, reviewed and recommended the proposed text amendment. The gentleman here in the audience tonight, Alexander Darren, has shown an interest in getting approval for falconry. We've also learned along the way there are some pretty rigid, thorough state licensure requirements for folks who keep birds of prey, and this is pretty significant state regulatory. Beyond that, over to Elizabeth.
Well, I really don't have much to add to that other than we do have someone interested and here today to answer any questions specifically about falconry, but in order to house a falcon, you have to go through a process with the state DNR to own a falcon, and then you house them in what's called a mews, which is like a structure that is where they stay when they're not in their flying exercises, if you will. And so we found the best place to put this within the ordinance is to have them as a conditional use under our ordinance as organized under allowing certain animals under the agricultural component in each of the areas R1, R2, and R3, where it is added again as a conditional use. So this first action that we're having here is modifying our existing code in general, and then our applicant will have a CUP that will come back to this body where it's specifically being requested to be housed, so you can evaluate the specific request. So first we had to bring it to the Plan Commission and then to you to modify our ordinance overall. And then again, anyone looking to actually do that, it would be a conditional use application. So this is our first step. But if you do have any questions about falconry as a practice, we do have the applicant here who can educate us all about that. So that's the background to this. Any questions about that?
All right, so we are going to open this up for public hearing. Anyone wishing to talk on this specific topic, please step up to the podium, my right, your left, state your name and address for the record. We will have 3 calls on this public hearing, so we are opening up the first call. I will close call 1 and open up call 2. Close call 2 and open up the third and final call before we go to vote. All right, we're going to close the public hearing and I will look for a motion. Thank you, Tracy. Seconded by Scott. Thank you very much. Council discussion. I know we went into this pretty in-depth at Plan Commission. There are several questions that were brought up there, a couple by myself as well. And I believe it is unanimously. Go ahead.
I would feel a little bit more comfortable about this if we could look at this in 3 years to see if this causes an explosion because of falconry ownership. It is, because I was going to the Plan Commission at times too, and even the one man, I don't remember his name, wanted this not to become popularized. I don't know what word to use. I'm a little concerned about that too. There's going to be this explosion of people wanting falcons, just like the explosion of golf carts.
We did talk about that at Plan Commission as well, and it's a pretty strict process to get your license. You first have to start with the state DNR, and you have to go through, I believe it's courses and a very lengthy process in order to even get your license to even have this falcon. So before they can even come to the city to house it within the city, which is all we're allowing them to do, they have to follow a lot of state rules and laws and continue to follow those state rules and laws, because I had that same concern. But I don't think that is going to be something that will happen given the process you have to go through.
Obviously, it always on any, and correct me if I'm wrong, city attorney, but on any change in the zoning or law, if over time the council sees too much of a particular use that's been allowed or identified as a conditional use, there'd be the opportunity to revisit. Now, I think generally there'd be a grandfathered right to people that were previously approved, but a course correction could be made saying henceforth there won't be any more conditional use permits granted for this particular use. I, having attended those same meetings Adam referenced, I don't see that proliferation of bird prey ownership happening. But that's a fair question. The council's not constrained from revisiting the issue prospectively in the future.
And if you want to make that as part of this motion, we can certainly do that to revisit this topic in a year from now and see kind of where we're at.
No, I'm actually more concerned about the birds. I just don't want to see birds cooped up, birds like that. And because somebody thought this was cool, and then later on, it's just like, oh, I'll feed the bird, but it'll never be normal. That's really more my concern than anything. But we'll just see if we get complaints or not. I can be all right with that. Just you're able to change it if you need to. Did we get a new sound system?
I think we're getting some feedback. I don't know if it's from
No, it's
some
okay.
other source.
It's just very strange.
That's what Rick had mentioned earlier.
Okay.
I did hear some.
Tricky. All right, anybody else? Good question, Bonnie. Yes, Tim.
People that already have on that, will they have to apply for one?
No, I would say you would have to apply for one because as of right now, you're not able to really keep them. But I could be misspeaking, but I would imagine you would have to get one.
Unless it's permitted by the terms of the current ordinances. Yeah, you'd have conditional.
Question?
We did have one gentleman as a member of the public who was present at the plan commission meetings and kind of self-identified as falconry for a number of years.
Anybody else? All right, seeing none, we will do a roll call vote. Amanda?
Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
Tracy Coach. Darrell Leclerc. Aye. Tim Petrie.
Aye.
Ronnie Shamota.
Aye.
Scott Stephenson. Adam West.
Aye. All right, thank you. We will move on to B. It is a request for a conditional use permit to establish an eyelash extension service operating as a home business at 2833 37th Street in Two Rivers. The recommended action is a motion to approve the conditional use permit. And this was also another one that came to us, I think, was it Plan Commission, I believe, yeah. So any background on that, Elizabeth or Greg?
I'll defer and noting the applicants are here in the audience. Any other questions?
We have our applicants here, and the background on this one is it is a home occupation / conditional use permit in order to operate this home occupation. The business is an eyelash extension service, which will be in a small portion of the home. And in order to be in the home, it has to meet the conditions. I do.
It seems to be kind of.
I apologize. I'm sorry. 20% of the home, of the dwelling to meet the home occupation criteria. So she would have one client at a time and execute the eyelash extension service within her home. So there is not going to be a lot of clients at a time. There would be one, and there would be one employee, and she is also the owner. So that would be the way this business would be operating out of her home. She is here if you have any questions about how that would be operating. But in order for this to happen, it would need to have a conditional use to be this beauty shop kind of business or beauty service. That's how it is under our code. So we would have to have this conditional use in order to proceed with that at home. The conditional use permit conditions are in your packet. And so we have sort of the usual 1 through 4 operation of use permitted in conformity with home occupation provisions. The typical one that we get feedback from is about the hours of operation, which are in the packet. We were proposing 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. based on discussion with the Plan Commission. She must comply with health code and local and state licensing requirements, and then any signage that must be in accord with the city's sign code. So that is what we have for you to review today, and any other questions or concerns that you might have for this business.
All right, thank you very much. We will open up the public hearing before we have any questions here from council. So again, we will have 3 calls. Anyone wishing to speak on this topic, please step up to the podium to my left. State your name and address for the record, and we will have 3 calls. Opening up call number 1. All right, we will close call 1 and open up call number 2. See no one for call 2, we will open up the 3rd and final call of the public hearing. All right, we will officially close the public hearing and look for a motion on this.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Bill. Seconded by Tracy. All right, council discussion.
This is something that you need to have a license for. It's like
Like a hairdresser or salon or, yes.
Okay, sounds good. Here we go. Thank you. This is our applicant.
Hi. In the state of Wisconsin, you do not actually need like a cosmetology or esthetician license to do lash extensions, which is only what I solely plan to do. If you were doing facials or dermal cleaning where you're like kind of taking hair off the face, that's what we would require.
So you still have to have a license though from the state, the county health department, correct?
No,
No, so there's no inspection that they do.
no. I'm not selling any like products or making any chemicals or anything like that, so I don't need anything for that.
Fine.
Somewhere she wrote down something. Yeah, that's what I thought. She did write down something. Who was being very patient.
Mine would actually not, my husband would probably agree, but.
Any other questions, council discussion? Dial anything on the phone?
No, I think it's a great idea.
All right, seeing nothing further, we're gonna send it to a roll call vote.
Bill Clark,
Aye.
Darrell Leclerc,
Aye.
Tim Petrie,
Aye.
Ron Shamonis,
Aye.
Scott Steckenson,
Aye.
Adam Husky,
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. And we will go to our third public hearing under C. It is a proposed zoning code text amendment to the City of Two Rivers zoning ordinance related to drive-in and drive-through establishments as a conditional use on Washington Street between the West Twin River and 20th Street in the B1 district. The recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt the ordinance, and I will send that over to Greg.
This is the second version of this, second of an ordinance, I'd say, the same intent that's come to city council a couple of months back. Council looked at one ordinance amendment. Some public feedback from the property owner on Washington Street, tries to put some concerns. It is now back to planning commission, and what is in front of you now is still, I think it's fair to say, intended to limit the proliferation of any drive-through or drive-in establishments in the traditional downtown area along Washington Street. This ordinance addresses from the West Twin River Bridge on the south to the 20th Street intersection. So for starters, it ends one block farther south than the prior amendment that was proposed. And that actually excludes the street traffic property and other properties that plan some days for drive-throughs. And as opposed to prohibiting that specific use in that area of traditional downtown. And by the way, whether to discourage it, some of the discussions along the lines of pedestrian safety, not wanting to introduce new significant vehicular traffic volumes entering and exiting the downtown sidewalks, and also the impact that additional curb cuts installed specifically for these uses would have on-street parking downtown. Those are a couple of the concerns. This doesn't prohibit such uses in this area, but instead it provides, as noted, that after July 30 of this year, no new accesses shall be granted, nor modification of existing access granted for the purpose of new drive-in or drive-through establishments. So if you buy an existing property that's got commercial driveway approaches that are plenty wide and will accommodate that use, still a conditional use, but you're not disqualified. However, and this is just as an example, I'm sure there are others, if you want to buy an existing building in that pretty narrowly defined downtown area along Washington Street that maybe has no driveway approaches, but tear it down and render that site in this, 5-6 block area into a drive-through, that would not be feasible under this ordinance. So I think it's meant to address safety concerns, legitimate safety concerns, on-street parking impacts that result by not talking about the use, well, we're still talking about the use of drive-in or drive-through businesses, but specifically adding a restriction about not creating new access points or widening existing accesses to accommodate such a business.
All right, so we are going to open this up for public hearing. Again, we will have 3 calls. Anyone wishing to speak on this, please step up to the podium, my right, your left, state your name and address for the record, and we will open up call number 1. Seeing no one for call one, we will close call one and open up call number two. Closing call two and opening up the third and final call of the public hearing. All right, we will close the public hearing and we will look for a motion on this.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Scott, seconded by Bonnie. All right, any council discussion as it relates to the drive-in and drive-through off Washington Street? Seeing none, we will put this up. Darla, do you have anything over the phone?
No.
All right, then we will send this off to a roll call vote. Amanda?
Darla Leclerc,
Aye.
Tim Petrie,
I,
Bonnie Shalhoub,
Aye.
Scott Stephenson,
Aye.
Adam Husky,
Aye.
Teresa Coach,
Aye.
Bill Clark.
All right, thank you for that. That concludes the public hearings. On to 6, which is input from the public. Anyone wishing to speak to the council on something that's on this agenda, something you'd like to see on a future agenda, please step up to the podium, my right, your left, and just state your name and address for the record, and input from the public is open. Okay, perfect. We will move on to 7, council communications. Any letters or other communications from citizens that any council member would like to share with the rest of council? Okay.
I've been getting feedback from both Golden.
On by Eggers over there off of Madison Street.
Yeah, there's quite a bit.
I did too. So, but you're going to hear some positives, some negatives. I was, not to beat a dead horse, but I wasn't for it either. But I do hear that same thing. But I mean, it's something that as a council, I guess we've moved forward with. But yeah, I'm with you. Anybody else? Bonnie.
We all got a letter about, from a person who wanted to praise one of the council people. And I mean, I agree with that. I think that they did a nice job of talking about it. But the reason I'm bringing it up is I would like to say that they also said that that person on the council cared a lot for Two Rivers. And I just wanted to say that I personally think that everybody on this council does. I think that all their decisions are made with the good of Two Rivers in their mind. Even if we don't agree with each other, we make our decisions because we believe it benefits Two Rivers, even me.
You know that, Bonnie. Of course, I think everyone here has the goodwill and intent of Two Rivers and the people that they speak to. And obviously, we all speak to different people sometimes. And we all got different opinions. And of course, we all have the best interests of Two Rivers at heart, no doubt about it.
And that's what makes it special. We all have different people and groups and whatever we talk to, so we could mix of different people to talk to. So yeah, I agree.
Anybody else? Darla, do you have anything?
No, I do not.
Okay. I do have a couple of things. The first one was hats off to the little kids, the youth baseball, softball programs that sold 1,520 pizzas from Port Sandy Bay for their fundraiser to go into the youth sports fund. I believe that raised about $8,074 according to Port Sandy Bay. And they were extremely excited and happy that they were able to help raise that kind of money for the youth sports here in Two Rivers. So hats off to them. Hats off to the rec department. I know Tammy has a big hand in that and keeping that all coordinated, which is a tough task when you're dealing with 1,520 pizzas. So definitely a great job by the youth sports, baseball and softball programs on that. I also had a couple people ask, I shouldn't say a couple people, I had one person tell me a couple things. One was wondering about park irrigation, if we were going to put irrigation in across the street at Central Park West 365 to keep the grass nice and green as it is now. And also questioned if we would be putting an epoxy floor in the bathroom to help to keep it clean versus the cement, that if anything got on that cement, that can kind of seep in, soak in, and make for maybe not such a nice place. So that was, I guess, a question and a suggestion, probably both at the same
I
time.
know, I've had some discussions with Adam on the irrigation. Probably makes sense to put it in after the sod has been established and cut it in, but certainly going to make every effort to make that a capital budget request to the council with next year's budget. We'll see if maybe somebody would like to put a donation with that as well, but we've had discussions since the park planning started. You build it right, you got to maintain it right as well, and I think everybody here would agree with. On the bathroom floors, I know there was some dialogue with the subcontractor, but Mike, those are per spec presently, or your thoughts on that? They got a lot of use this weekend, that I know. Conveniently located in the center of the park, as some have observed.
Yeah, the floors were 2 spec. I think all of us we saw it, and there's probably some opportunity to make those floors a little bit more attractive after we got the building finished. So yeah, that probably wouldn't be all that expensive of a project for next year. So it would be a nice consideration. I'm wondering if there's some texturizing we could do and something like that as well for the restrooms, because I've heard that they could be slick as well. So yeah, it's a good thought that we can check into for next year.
Contractors in the area that do that kind of work too, so.
I would appreciate irrigation if I put in my 2 cents on the park. We've pulled a lot of sprinklers and a lot of hoses, used a lot of time to invest in keeping that grass green this year. So yeah.
That fire hose running under Washington Street through the storm sewer, so good stuff.
And overall, I spent the majority of my day, not a majority, but a good portion of my day down there yesterday, as did a lot of council members, and I think we all got some pretty good feedback. I know I did. Those weren't necessarily bad things. They're just suggestions on maybe ways that we can keep that park looking pretty nice for years to come.
I think as of today, we garnered about 5,000 more in donations based on the weekend's activities too. It's amazing. Yeah.
And then the other one that I have, I did forward that off to both Matt and DPW and to Greg. Wondering about doing a spring cleanup, if they could pick up things like broken tables, stuff like that. Also about plowing the path at Zlatnik on the beach. I know Matt is looking into that. It seems like every year we get a question like that, whether it be the one on Memorial Drive or wherever. Obviously, there's a big cost to that, and then sometimes an expectation for salt. But just so that person knows, I did forward that off to the right people, and they are looking into that to see what those costs might be and what the city may or may not be able to do to hopefully get that addressed. That's all I had, but Scott says he's got one.
Yep, I forgot about one. There was someone that expressed concern about the playground at Neshoto, about someone injuring themselves, needed more wood chips or mulch. I sent it over to Mike at Parks and Rec. He took care of that within a couple days, so thank you, Mike. Greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Council communications? All right, seeing none, we will go on to council reports from boards, commissions, or committees. Anyone have anything they'd like to report on? Okay, we'll start with you, Darla. Go ahead.
Okay, for Main Street, we're just gonna talk about what was going on for Central Park 365. But Brian Lee Memorial Blues Festival is coming up this coming weekend. And I know Greg's gonna talk more about that. I just wanted to mention that the food is gonna be by R&R Concessions. These use cakes and steaks. FBW. Help me out with that. It's not coming to me.
Is it like a service organization like VFW or? Then the American Legion?
American Legion Auxiliary.
Is it the American Legion Auxiliary?
Okay, just what's written down here, it says on there. Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, they've been calling us the VFW. They're wrong.
Okay.
I got hot dogs, that's all I know.
Starts off at 1 o'clock with Brian Lee Express. Right around 2 o'clock, they're going to do the declaration, and then we're going to have a lot of really good entertainment from musicians that are from outside of our area. They're coming here, and they're bringing their bands along. And And then the finale is gonna be at around 8 o'clock, and that's gonna have all the musicians get up and play. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. Hopefully the weather is decent, but we expect a number of people. And with the new configuration of the park, I think it's gonna be fantastic. And also you can see the stage really well from across the street, evidently. That's what Bill was telling me. And so if there is overflow, nobody on the other side of Washington will be missing out on anything. So I think we're in good shape that way. The flowers downtown, you all are enjoying them. Just want to give a shout out to Green Acres Landscaping, who is fertilizing and watering them regularly. They did it last year as well and did a great job. And then we're still looking for sponsorship for Ethnic Fest, so you can get in touch with Main Street if you're interested in that. And then for the Environmental Advisory Board, I'm going to be getting in touch with the people who are participating in the Front Yard Vegetable Gardening Pilot Program. We ended up with 2, which is, I'm happy with that. Now that we've gotten the ball rolling, I've already heard from 3 people that they want to participate next year. That they didn't do it this year because there wasn't enough time to plan. They want to plan out their landscaping to go along with it. So they want to do it next year. And then there was these people were pretty positive. And then I've had other people ask me if we are going to do it again, if so, then they want to participate. So I'm just glad that we have 2 people doing it this year, and next year we'll have more participation.
I expect there'll be a recommendation coming from the Environmental Advisory Board, because I think that will require some specific follow-up action by council, because it was an authorization for a 1-year trial or a 1-season trial this year. So that'll probably be addressed on the next ARB agenda.
Yeah, we are meeting tomorrow evening. And, we'll be able to go over and see what our progress is and kind of kick it around and see what we would like to suggest for next year.
Okay. Anybody else? Boards, commissions, or committees? Anything they need to report on? Tracy's got her hand up.
Well, yes, the library board.
Yeah, go for it.
Last week, already told you about the truck in the youth section, and I want to say, bring your young people, the to-go packages, empty off the shelves quite quickly, as well as the treasure hunt is got, I think, about 14 so far, but
48.
48?
Yeah.
Yeah, like we're the 4th one, so it's 48. But it's a lot of fun, and I can never get more than one other person, and that's just me. So.
They don't have a team.
However, on a regular basis, the library gets emails from people who come in to visit.
And use the library.
Not all of them are from the area, and this one caught my attention, and if you don't mind, I'd like to read it.
Go ahead.
Hello, library staff. My 3 daughters and I visited your library on Friday morning, June 16th. We were in the Two Rivers area for a short family vacation and stopped by for an hour. We are from the Rice Lake area in northwest Wisconsin, and we enjoy visiting our local library regularly. We also try to check out libraries when we travel. We enjoyed your beautiful building, especially the spacious youth area. Everything was so neat and organized and welcoming. My kids loved playing with the food trucks and would have stayed for hours if we had the time. Whomever is responsible for this whole food truck play area is a genius. The creativity and artistic talent used to decorate and create the whole thing is amazing. All the small details really make it more realistic and fun. My kids marveled at the crochet and felt ingredients, as well as the real containers and baskets. The banners and string lights and tablecloths make it so fun. Top notch for sure. Thank you for a wonderful experience. We look forward to visiting again on our next visit here. Hope your summer programming is great. We appreciate all the work library staff do to make these opportunities available to us patrons. Sincerely,
Ambers, Debbie, Cameron, Wisconsin.
They get a lot of these, so this isn't unusual. The state is noticing our library.
Very good. Hats off to Jeff Dawson and his crew and all that they do down there. So nice job, Jeff. Anybody else? All right, we did meet, Advisory Rec Board met as well last week, and we had a lot to talk about, upcoming kind of tandeming with the library there and the walk at Xander Park, which is a story read walk brought to us by the West Foundation in that grant. So that is underway. I know Parks crew is working on that, on the Neshoto Park upgrade. We talked about that, and that's going to be starting right after Snowfest, I believe Mike had said, and looking to get that hopefully completed by the end of September, beginning of October-ish. Also looking at other ways to improve Neshoto Park as it applies to our Neshoto Park master plan, seeing what things we could do to try to get into the capital budget for the upcoming year. And also Mike had a great idea, and we look to pursue that at Riverside Park, where we can maybe incorporate some more fitness stuff and more of a senior themed park over at Riverside, and kind of give that a new boost of life, of which it sincerely needs. So that's what we had talked about at Advisory Rec Board. On to 9, City Manager's Report. Greg.
Thank you. First, we thank Phil Rohr for this beautiful drone image of Two Rivers. We look mighty nice. In fact, I commented to Phil, it wasn't his work, but Channel 26, often as they cut to commercial break on the news, show pictures of their various hometowns and their coverage area. They have likewise a beautiful drone shot of Two Rivers. So we thank Phil for sharing that, and he's offered his services to the city as a volunteer if we need drone photography of any projects or other things. Is that lighting okay? The sun just came out. Is Bonnie and Tracy, is that okay over by you, or is it too bright? You good? Okay, very good. As far as ongoing recruitments, because it's about people, the employees that provide services to the community, there is a conditional offer out to for the one full-time vacancy in our police ranks. We are still accepting applications for a temporary custodian and grounds maintenance position. And the fire department will very shortly be making a selection from a PFC, Police and Fire Commission approved finalist pool for the one vacancy in our full-time firefighter paramedic staff. The selection process has been completed and approved by the Police and Fire Commission for the fire assistant chief, and there will be a public announcement this week, and expect an introduction publicly at the next regular, and swearing in at the next regular council meeting.
Before you go any further, do you want to do the invited guest? Scott just had mentioned that to me.
I'm so sorry. I was rolling. Thank you. I did it again. Maybe
he
poor
can't
Tony
stay here
Soxy
for the
sit
whole
here like
time,
through
but-
the whole meeting last time. Andrew Succolati, Water Department Utilities Director, wants to introduce a new employee. I apologize for that, and thank you. Thank you. We always show a really pretty picture of Two Rivers before introducing new employees.
So the water utility had an opening due to another retirement just a couple weeks ago. The water utility hired a certified operator, Caden Kowalski. We're really excited about Caden coming on board. Caden is actually a Mishkot graduate. He actually started at the water utility about 14 months ago as a YA through high school. Did an internship after that and has been on board since. So we're really excited with that. Caden actually took the initiative on his own after a few months of working at the plant, realizing how much he enjoyed it, to actually go out and get his surface water and his distribution certification from the DNR, which put him right in line when we had an opening to apply and be qualified. Caden will also be going to night school through Moraine Park to get his 2-year associate's degree in water quality as he's working full-time by us. And it's just really exciting to have Caden on board, because this is a great example of bringing the youth in, the time we spend with them, and the amazing outcomes that we can achieve through the water utility with the local students. So we're very excited for Caden to come on board.
Well, I'll pinch.
Great example of people here. Fantastic careers to be had in utility service and other areas of city government. I just said to Andrew while he was up there, it's been interesting as we've proceeded through this dry summer to see the kind of water volumes that are being used out in the system. Just if you could give a quick update on that.
Sure. So beginning of summer, obviously we kind of talked, it was super dry. We had some very high usages. We look back to last year, obviously we have higher usages in the summer, lower usages in the winter. We always have that. Last year, we pretty much averaged the whole year just over 1 million gallons a day, 1.1 million gallons a day. The beginning of summer, we were averaging about 1.8 for quite a few weeks. We do have the capacity for that, really no questions there. We did run into just a little bit of issues back then trying to get water to the north side. So Grenco water's off. We made it.
I got the bill to show it.
So we changed up some operations and stuff, and we didn't have too many issues after that. Things were pretty good. I will say, you know, we've been getting some spotty rain lately. But we've been holding in that 1.5 to 1.6 million gallons a day here for a consistent 4 or 5 weeks in. So we're still pumping a lot more water, you know, than we typically do. Usually we don't see these kind of flows until the later part of the summer, August, September, when usually it's really dry and everyone's grass is brown. So it started a lot earlier.
There ain't no sin in using it. This isn't Las Vegas. We got it right at our doorstep. So what, Andrew, what was the peak day? Was that the day the fire occurred? And we had
Yeah, actually the fire did peak us off. Right before that, we did have a pretty high day of like 1.82. The fire day, we actually used about 1.87. So we're pushing almost 1.9 million. So the news is that
plant, which has rated capacity well above that, is holding up well. We do have some concerns about the intake, and even though it was cleaned, what, 4 or 5 years ago now?
yeah, so the intake coming from the lake into the plant, we know we have an issue with sand getting deposited in there. It was really bad about 5 or 6 years ago. We brought a company in, they actually hooked up a whole bunch of huge pumps onshore and blew all the sand back out into the lake, cleaned it out real nice. Things were good. We had our 5-year dive inspection last year, the intake. It did show that we're building up with sand again. Unfortunately, we don't have a middle hatch that we can pull and see how much is in the middle of the pipe. So we basically can only get our information from where it is at the plant and at the very end of the pipe. We've been doing monthly max flow testing on the plant just to ensure that once we kind of see it starting to go significantly down, we know we're probably going to have to flush it out again. It's just an issue we're probably always going to have in Two Rivers because we're built on a sandbar. However, those currents work, we're just always going to have the sand out there. With the high flows that we've seen this summer, we've actually, because we kind of brought the plant up slowly to keep meeting the demand, we've gotten well above what we've actually max tested, say 2 months ago. So that actually is a positive thing for us. So I think we're actually looking pretty decent on the sand issue. One issue that we're lacking a little bit in is we have 5 racks of membranes that filter the water at the plant. Starting in 2016, we were buying new membranes. We have 4 racks done to date, which run just amazing. But we have 1 left that after the high flows, we don't run to it no more. But we do have the money set aside for it, and they are already ordered for delivery in January or February. So we'll be looking pretty good once we get those in.
For sharing. Understand it's not just a pipe that lays out on the bottom, but Actually, the last time we had divers out there, the grading in that is about how far above?
About 7 feet. So one of the big issues last time when they went out there is they found that as the pipe comes out into the lake, the cribbing that kind of went around it at the very bottom kind of fell apart, was deteriorated. So more or less, the pipe coming into the plant was almost right at the bottom of the lake. So there was some thought if we could get it off the bottom of the lake, maybe we could stop some of those sand currents from dropping the sand right in the pipe and we suck it in. So they built kind of a gravity box looking piece of pipe work with some grates on top to keep the big fish out, and now it sits about 7 feet off the floor. But in that vessel, last summer when they did the dive inspection, we did find that end of the pipe to be about 3/4 full of sand already. So,
When the lake kicks up, it moves a lot of sand, so.
the fact that we could pull, almost 1.8, 1.9 million gallons a day for several weeks was very, very positive though. I mean, that leads me to believe that, hopefully we have at least a handful of years yet, hopefully before we have to do it again, because it's not cheap. I got quoted, once we found the sand last summer, just to make sure we were ready to go if we need to, and it was $480,000, I think. So it's
Mobilizing a lot of equipment and setting it up. So just by way of update, I appreciate the stress testing, if you want to call it that the staff has been doing, and the real life demands this summer have borne out the remember, we went from 1924 to about 2018 without cleaning the intake. So I don't think we're going to go that long again. But
yeah, and honestly, if we would have not cleaned it 5 years ago, 6 years ago when we did, I mean, our flows were at a point, we would have never kept up this. We wouldn't even been close. We would have probably been in that. We would have probably been a couple 100,000 gallons shy through that really hot stretch at the beginning of the summer.
I understand we do, in the event of emergency, we do have the interconnect with Manitowoc, which is nowhere near sufficient to supply the entire community's needs before you hear that whole story, but would help in a pinch.
And what's interesting about that though is, we do rely on that as an emergency if something catastrophic happens. We're always in close contact with them because they're our neighbor, and we do want to make sure that through those spells, if we would happen to need it, it's there. And every community had the same problem. Everybody was pumping as much as they could because Manitowoc was no different. They were as dry as we were, so their flows were through the roof too.
And that emergency interconnect works both ways, and it has on occasions. So. Very good. Thank you. Actually, Brian, well, before I forget, and the meeting's adjourned, and I realized I wanted you up here. We did on Friday evening experience a pretty significant outage on the north side of town. And then last night, right about after the thunderstorms rolled through, an east side outage. Both responded to very well. Brian, as director, can give you a response. I will put a plug in, though, that on a Friday night in July, to have 4 seasoned line people respond, you wouldn't get that from an investor-owned utility serving this community. There, I said it. Over to you.
So as far as update from the weekend, unfortunately, we did have 2 events Friday night. We ended up having what we've determined as a substation issue with a transformer. Today, we had an engineer come in, did a quick overview of the transformer itself. What we're going to need to do is set up some isolation with that transformer to get their more extensive testing crews to come in, determine what the condition of that transformer is. So once we get that crew to come in and look it all over, we'll have a better idea. So currently, the north end circuit is off that transformer. What the guys did on Friday night was basically do some distribution switching. There are certain locations throughout town that they can go and tie circuits together. So that's what they did. Great job by the 4 personnel that came in. I was out of town. communicating with Greg, the linemen that were on call and stuff like that. Did a great job, so. And then last night, about 20 to 10, I was watching the radar as the storms were rolling in. Ended up actually going to bed just before the storm happened, that we had the outage. And the whole east side was out. 3 personnel responded and myself. Basically, what we had to do is go and run the streets, check all the lines to figure out where the cause was. Unfortunately, when lightning happens, it's one of those instantaneous, and you may not find anything. It could be just that it trips the breaker at the substation and the whole circuit's off. We did have one location that we did have some broken equipment, but what I truly believe is actually we had 2 scenarios at the same time. We had the broken equipment and we had a lightning strike in a different location, which we had to go and run a couple extra lines just to figure out where and what happened. Isolated the transformer bank where we had the broken equipment, turned the breaker back on at the substation, got the majority of the customers back on around 11 o'clock. So just over an hour and 20 minutes. Actually, if I go back to Fridays, that was about an hour and a half for that outage. So all in all, unfortunately, it happened, but guys did a great job of working together and getting everything back on.
Job well done in both instances.
Yep.
Thank you, Ryan.
Job.
Pass that along to the crew. Very good. Back in the personnel area, I think we pretty well covered that. Yeah, you all know it was a pretty busy weekend in Central Park West. Saturday was all about the Schmidt brothers, the dedication of the new Schmidt brothers stage, for which, of course, the family and friends provided a $100,000 naming gift, as well as additional funding of almost $30,000 for the plaques and all the things that you see on the north side of the stage toward 18th Street. The park was full of members of the public, and you see there the assembled extended Schmidt family, which did a musical number on stage. They had 350 family members at the community house that evening for their private family reunion dinner from 18 different states, and a whole lot of folks from the community that know of and love the Schmidt brothers and what was being celebrated with this dedication. I'm hoping this can mean that in the future we see some echoes of this barbershop event, maybe as something annual. But it was very, very well received. And just, some of the photos here going clockwise, a very large crowd on a very hot afternoon. In the middle photo there up top, you see former Green Bay Mayor Jim Schmidt, who was the son of Jim, a quartet member. He was presenting plaques to 2 surviving spouses of the quartet, Tony Schmidt, who was married to Joe, and to Mayor Jim's mom, Mary Ann Schmidt, the wife of Jim Schmidt of the quartet. And I really want to get a video clip of what Mary Ann Schmidt had to say in her comments, because she said her hat was really off to the workers who put the stage together and did all the work. Jim had her down here about every 2 weeks. I know they did lunch at Cool City Brewery a lot of those days, and she was able to inspect the progress on the project and was very gracious in her comments that related to the good work done by our people from DPW and the utilities and Parks and Rec, and to the contractor. And can't say enough good things about the in-kind work that was done by our city forces there. And then I was happy to accept from Jim Schmidt a plaque in appreciation for the city's partnership on the stage project. It was a great day, and I know the family members that we were dealing with regularly throughout the project, very happy with this tribute and this gift, lasting gift they've given to the community. So Sunday we said, let's do it all over again. Remember when we committed to the Schmidt family, because they have this big reunion in mid-July. At the time, I said to Jim Schmidt, that's great. We'll have the stage done, and you might have a good amount of grass in front of it. Beyond that, it might be snow fence and just utter devastation. But thanks to a great general contractor with Vinton Construction, the great work by our own people, you think about it. In January, this project started. Here we are in mid-July. And but for a few little elements, which no one would have known if we hadn't have told them, it's done. And that in itself is pretty amazing. We didn't blow a season. On Sunday, though, the dedication for the overall park indeed was able to happen. We were super pleased to have comments from the co-chairs of the planning and fundraising committees, Wendy Brandt and Kathy Peterson. They had a beautiful message to share, and those folks on the committee put a lot of work in developing concepts, meeting at least on a couple occasions with City Council to talk through some of the design issues. It was, those of you that were here for it, there was good give and take throughout that process, and the finished product shows the benefit of that. Council President Wahusky and I kind of tag teamed on acknowledging the naming sponsors and the folks that gave substantial sums, but along the way made very clear that every donation counts and is appreciated. And we're talking more than 420 individuals, organizations, and businesses that when you add in the West Foundation's very generous $300,000 have provided, oh my goodness, I lose track of the math, over 1.1 million dollars. Then you add in the WEDC grant and other funding, and we are right in that neighborhood of a total project that in today's costs about 1.75 million. So the city is less than a third of that, which is pretty impressive. Spicy Thai Band took the stage. They provided amazing entertainment. Everybody loved them. I know they'll be back again next year at the beach. We stole them from Rebecca and the Parks and Rec staff and brought them downtown for the dedication, but they were the perfect band. We celebrated with a conga line there. We were just then negotiating between some benches. It's a pretty thin spot there, but we all made it. And then, of course, we just last week saw the donor signs mounted on the west side of the stage. If you didn't have of the pavilion building, I'm sorry, if you didn't have a chance to look at that, there's some pretty cool historic photos of what the park looked like when it was being laid out in 1885. And the first bandstand, I don't know how early that went in, but the photo was from 1910. The water feature all weekend was a popular attraction, and a lot of enjoyment already this summer on that park feature. Meanwhile, over at the beach, Friday night and especially on Saturday, there were huge crowds for the Latino American Beach Festival. As soon as you got out of the car, you could smell some great Mexican food. There was great music, wonderful turnout, and we're hoping to see that event return in 2024. So again, just a great weekend. Thanks to everybody who made it possible. Wrapped up last night with the Lakeshore Wind Ensemble. It was kind of interesting because the afternoon crowd cleared. The park filled up again. It was just as full as it was in the afternoon, and a phenomenal performance that just beat the thunder and rain by the Lakeshore Wind Ensemble. We thank them because that's been a long-standing tradition. By the way, the 60-member ensemble all fit comfortably on the stage. Their conductor was very happy with the sound. Municipal band folks in the audience felt a whole lot better about it, as did a lot of us. That stage has proven its mettle this past weekend. Meanwhile, we're still doing infrastructure work over on Lincoln Street. Matt's here if you have any specific questions, but basically we're, as of Thursday of this week, with any luck, into grading operations over there. Vinton is the subcontractor to Mammoth Construction for all of the street paving work, and moving ahead toward an expected completion date, all goes well, at the end of August. And in these parts, when you start a project in the spring and are done by Labor Day, that qualifies as pretty good. It's been a little change on the schedule for delivery and installation and dedication of the Czech sculpture by Václav Fiala that is going out in Central Park. As shown in the lower right there, the friendship table sculpture has been disassembled and is in a crate now somewhere in a container in the Atlantic. It's supposed to go through, it's supposed to be at Customs in Chicago by August 2. That's a little tight if you're planning to have it assembled and dedicated on August 6. So there will still be an event on August 6th with Czech music in the park, made possible through the Sister Cities Committee. That'll be at the Schmidt Brothers stage, and it'll have the Wisconsin Czech Choraleers, Don Conop's Bavarian Band, and our Two Rivers Community Band. There'll be food, music. We will welcome Václav Fiala, the Czech artist, who will be here with his family for a week. And then we will look forward, and if all goes well, he can help work with our engineering staff. Matt has been provided contact information and is in touch with the artist about the installation requirements. With a little luck, Fiala can be here during that installation, but as far as the actual dedication event, that has now been moved to September, when there will be the student exchange with Czech students here at Two Rivers High School, staying with host families. So we mightily thank Brenda Kaprowski, the longtime chair of the Sister Cities Committee, and that group for all of their efforts. So there you have artist Fiala in his studio in the Czech Republic. Two key features on atop the friendship table are an American GI helmet and a Czech rural peasant's hat. Same symbolism as on a companion piece he's done in Domažlice. Great stuff. Adam mentioned earlier the Story Walk project. Leicester Public Libraries Foundation was the official applicant for the West Foundation's first ever Director's Choice Imaging Grant. And as you know, we're one of the 2 funded entities, or a lot of organizations around the county pursuing that. As a nonprofit agency that designs a program or service focused on the arts, culture, or environment in Manitowoc County. I think the Story Walks project rang all those bells. Project will promote early literacy and environmental awareness in partnership with the City of Two Rivers Parks and Rec Department over at Xander Park and Woodland Dunes Nature Center and Preserve, who've been a vital partner in this. And is a dedication event planned on that?
August 16th.
August 16th. So watch for more information on that. Good stuff. Concerts in the park. You will see the Manitowoc Marine Band take the stage next on the 20th. Next Thursday. Thank you. That's right. This Thursday, this week, Thursday, 6:30, the Manitowoc Marine Band, our Two Rivers community band, does an exchange to Manitowoc each year. Happy to host the Marine Band. There's also really big prints going on over at the Hamilton Wood Type Printing Museum, July 19th to the 22nd. Fish Derby next weekend, out on Lake Michigan and over at Walsh Field. Over $13,000 in cash and prizes. And as Brian Dean, our tourism director, has reported, fishing on the Big Lake has been really, really good so far this year. So let's hope it holds up well through Derby. Next weekend, Saturday, as Darla mentioned, on the 22nd is the Brian Lee Memorial Blues Festival, 3rd annual. And this celebrates the life and legacy of the blues legend born Brian Lee Kumbalik here in Two Rivers, who passed away in 2020. And it's a phenomenal event, both in terms of music talent and all the folks that it brings into Two Rivers and into the heart of our downtown. So we thank Brian Lee's family. We look forward to welcoming Beth and other members of the family back to Two Rivers. And we thank Two Rivers Main Street for their role in organizing this annual event. Also, the sponsors you see noted there, Community First, HMF, and the other entities identified. There's a whole bunch of them, so I won't go further there. Our Two Rivers Community Band, this is the one that threw me off. I thought it was next Thursday for them, but next Sunday afternoon, it's time for Polkas in the Park. So Polkas in Central Park on the new stage next weekend, Sunday. Another great community tradition organized through the Two Rivers Optimists, the Great Bike Giveaway, Wednesday, July 26th over at Walsh Field. Registration at 6 p.m., the drawings at 6:30. Kids ages 2 to 12 are eligible. Thank you to all the generous donors that provide brand new bicycles that are given away free to kids 2 to 12. And you want to see a kid's face light up, see them walk out of there with a brand new bicycle. Snowfest returns, and that is July 28th to 30th, the end of the month. Friday through Sunday over at Neshota Park. Some great entertainment, foods, craft vendors, other activities. Police and fire and other agencies involved in National Night Out. That is on August 1st at Walsh Field. That's a Tuesday, I believe. And not only TRPD squads, the canines, both Sante and Daisy, Fire department, trucks and ambulance. Kids get to spray the fire hose. Participation by the county sheriff's department, state patrol, Pink Heels, U.S. Coast Guard, DNR, and always a highlight, Eagle 3 lands on the field over at Walsh at 7:15. National Night Out, August 1st. The first 2 minutes with Two Rivers was broadcast on a couple of the Seehafer stations, notably WOMT and 98.1 The Lake. That is also available both on our tourism and city websites, Brian?
Correct.
Yep. As well as Facebook posts. So that's a weekly 2-minute feature on Thursday mornings at 7:40 a.m., but is replayed. And that's on OMT. It's later, 10:30 on 98.1. Very good feedback on that so far, and it's really meant to drive information to the community on whatever is current. Of course, you can always go to explore2rivers.com for complete and up-to-date information. One communication that came out on Facebook this week on the weekend, Sunday, on the Two Rivers Family Swim Center's Facebook page, I thought was worthy of sharing, and I know some of you have seen this. It indicates that the board of directors for the Two Rivers Family Swim Club met last week and did come to a very difficult decision that 2023 will be their last season of operation. They go on to say that the next steps will be to meet with the city to help achieve a new facility for the community. So I expect we'll have some contact following their membership meeting, which is noted here will be on July 27. This is a topic that has been addressed with past councils, and we'll certainly, I'm sure, welcome the opportunity for that dialogue. Swim facilities are very expensive to operate. It's been an amazing thing how the swim center has been sustained as a private community-supported entity all these years. Raised some interesting and I think tough questions, honestly, because it's a huge community quality of life asset, especially for young families. On the other hand, it ain't cheap. And we know our neighboring city, as a much larger city, has a pretty healthy subsidy in terms of operation of the aquatic center. So stay tuned on that one. Obviously an important issue in the community to a lot of folks. Not a lot on intergovernmental update. I just wanted to note that on the good news on shared revenues, we still as a staff do need to learn more about some specifics on implementation. There are some maintenance of effort requirements as far as maintaining spending on public safety, notably with the additional dollars coming in. The state also, in the context of the budget, is sunsetting personal property taxes. There's some educational sessions coming up by the League and the Urban Alliance, and we'll keep you updated on those. Just how, bottom line, shared revenue increase is very good news, but we need to know the specifics as to those maintenance of effort issues. Councilmember Dahlke, who's not here tonight, had raised at the last meeting the item in our city goals list about possibly exploring correctional facilities. I haven't done a great amount of research on this. I did ask Senator Jacques when he was here this weekend if there was anything specific in the new state budget, because we know there are longstanding issues about the Waupun and Green Bay correctional facilities, which are really antiquated, really overcrowded. There's nothing specific in the state budget. They expect something maybe coming forward from the state's Public Buildings Commission. So stay tuned on that. I think it's fair to say that's a topic that probably would warrant a lot more discussion before we'd unabashedly say that it's a good thing or not a good thing for the community. A lot of considerations there. Didn't have anything else other for intergovernmental at this point. So with that, just again, a closing slide of some of the crowds we had this weekend in the park, a beautiful night view of the splash pad, and most importantly, kids enjoying it. That's my report.
All right, thank you, Greg. We will go on to number 10, which is the consent agenda. Under A, minutes of meetings, we have 6. There is a Leicester Public Library meeting of June 13th, 2023, a Police and Fire Commission of June 29th, 2023, a Public Utilities Committee meeting of July 5th, 2023, Architectural Control Committee, July 5th, 2023, a Public Works Committee of June 12th, 2023, and the Plan Commission meeting of July 10th, 2023. Recommended action, motion to receive and file. Under B, department reports for June of 2023, there are 10. The recommended action is a motion to receive and file. Under C, summary of verified bills for the month of June 2023 for $1,832,858.78. Recommended action, motion to receive and file. Finally, under D, applications and petitions, there are 4. We have a temporary Class B retailer's license from Knights of Columbus, 1957, for Vanderbroer Arboretum Wine Walk, August 26, 2023, at the Vanderbroer Arboretum at 3800 Lincoln Avenue in Two Rivers. We also have a temporary Class B retailer's license from Two Rivers Historical Society for Accidental Hero Performance on August 5th, 2023, at the Two Rivers Historical Society, located at 1622 Jefferson Street. We also have a 2023-2024 landscaping/tree renewal license, a quantity of 2. And finally, 2023-2024 combination Class B renewal license, a quantity of 1. The recommended action is a motion to approve the applications and authorize issuance of the licenses. The recommended action for the consent agenda as a whole is a motion to approve the consent agenda with the various actions recommended. Looking for a motion on the consent agenda. Thank you, Scott. Seconded by Tracy. Council discussion. Scott.
I noticed combo B license was for the arcade. Has that all been cleared up now? We had concerns, I think, the last time.
So I reached out to the state in regards of the rules for the minors and what they recommended. I did speak with Mr. Cleveland, who is the agent there, and he agreed to follow the state's recommendation, and the premise was amended.
Question? Anybody else? See none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, thank you. On to 11, City Council formal items. Only 2 today. Under A, we have a city manager's appointment of Corrine Weiss to the Environmental Advisory Board for a term to expire May 1st of 2026. Recommended action, motion to approve the appointment as recommended by the city manager. Greg, any slight background on this?
Ms. Weiss has a relevant degree in environmental science, strong interest in the environment and the outdoors. And I believe she had originally reached out to Darla Leclerc as chair of the Environmental Advisory Board. And knowing now of her interest and qualifications, I'm happy to recommend her for an appointment to darn near a 3-year term, expiring in May 1st of 2026.
All right, thank you. Looking for a motion on that. Thank you, Bill. Seconded by Tracy. Any council discussion? See none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, thank you on that. And finally, we have a resolution upon retirement for James Gospodarek, completing a 26-year distinguished career with the water utility. The recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt the resolution. However, I think we ought to read the resolution, and Andrew is up here, and he will read that before we take a motion.
This is the resolution upon retirement for Jim Gospodarek. Whereas Jim Gospodarek began his employment with the city of Two Rivers at the Department of Public Works on July 7th, 1997, as a public work maintenance worker. And whereas Mr. Gospodarek was promoted to Equipment Operator 1 at the Department of Public Works on September 24th, 2001. And whereas Mr. Gospodarek transferred to the water utility on May 24th, 2010 as a certified water operator. And whereas Mr. Gospodarek retired from the water utility on July 7th, 2023, completing a distinguished career with the city of Two Rivers in service of our community. And whereas Mr. Gospodarek always exhibited a willingness to assist during emergency situations at the water treatment plant and during the frigid days of winter on water main breaks to ensure the continuity of water service to all in the community. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Two Rivers does hereby express its appreciation to Jim Gospodarek for his distinguished service to the City of Two Rivers and its citizens for the past 26 years. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be provided to Gus with congratulations and best wishes for a happy and healthy retirement.
All right, thank you, Andrew. Looking for a motion on this.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Scott. Second by Bonnie. Any council discussion on this?
This explains that he's been going fishing a lot more. He lives kitty corner from me, and he's always driving back and forth with his boat. So now that explains it.
That's it, right?
Yeah, that explains it now. So
There'll be a lot more of that going on.
yeah.
Amanda, I just caught a minor typo in this in one of the I think the last whereas. I don't know if you and Lisa had seen that. We might want to, yeah, WHERAES. I think it's Old English, but we might, at least in the one I've got in front of me.
Yeah, I see that same thing.
We might want to correct that because I don't want to take any grief from Gus about sending him a resolution with a spelling error after 26 years with the city. So we wish Mr. Gospodarek nothing but the best.
Okay, so we will bring that back. I think we should have it signed correctly too. So we'll bring that back for next council meeting to get that signed. Looking for a motion on this. No, I took that, so we didn't take the roll call yet. It's a roll call vote. Amanda.
Scott Stepmeister.
Aye.
Adam Husky.
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Darrell Leclerc.
Aye.
Tim Petrie. Brian Shmulkis.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. 12 for information only. Greg, you got that?
This is a 5 Monday month, so our practice has been typically when there are 5 Mondays, not to hold an extra meeting if we can avoid it, but to move the work session to that final Monday. So I wanted to check first of all if that works for most of you. So that would mean no meeting next week, but the work session on the 31st. We do have a couple of items for that work session. One would be some further dialogue with the school district regarding the purchase agreement for the property adjacent to LB Clark Middle School needed for that expansion renovation project. And about 6 weeks ago, I was approached and had a meeting with representatives of the Blue Heron Condo Association Board regarding some of their concerns about the fact that yes, they pay city taxes like everybody else, but they also are responsible for private streets, private utilities, which is frankly how that development was set up when the developer built it and the city approved it. So they have some requests, I believe, as far as perhaps the city taking additional responsibility beyond what we traditionally have. I'll leave it for the discussion that evening, but I told them that seemed like a work session topic. Won't be presenting it for final action, but just a heads up there. And if time permits, we'll probably do a closed session for preliminary discussion on a possible assist to an economic development project, a different one than we've discussed of late. So 31st, next Monday, you're free. Do yard work or do something, get out and enjoy the sun. That's all I have, and there is no, well, of course, then the next regular meeting is August 7th. No closed session tonight.
All right. Anyone opposed to going to the 31st of July for the work session? All good with that? Perfect. All right, looking for a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Tim. Seconded by, nobody wants to get out of here. Bill, any council discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Thank you and good night.